Okay, so what I want to do tonight is talk about how to make a tippy top. Does everybody know what a tippy top is? Tippy tops are interesting tops because, I mean, a top itself is interesting because when you spin it, um, it stays standing up and recesses, and it's kind of interesting because it sort of defies gravity. A tippy top goes the next step. What you do is you spin it, and it flips over and spins upside down. So I'm going to show you. So switch over to camera three. Camera three. Okay, so I'm going to give it a good spin, and it flips over. I mean, which is kind of weird or amazing. I sell these at the market, and whenever I do this, it's always fun to watch people's faces because they're standing here, and I said, "Have you ever seen one of these tops?" And I spin it, and then they go, or something like that, and so it's kind of fun. Well, one thing that I want to mention about this that's even makes it more amazing, I think, is suppose I spin it. Okay, I'm going to spin it like this, which is when I'm looking down on it, that's clockwise. Okay, so it's going. Well, let me try that again. It's going clockwise. Still going clockwise. Okay, is that a surprise? What do you think? Is that what you expect? What's that? That's right. Because if it's going clockwise when it's in this position, and you keep it going that same direction and just turn it over like that, now it's going counterclockwise. So what that means is somewhere along the line, as it's flipping over, it's not spinning about its axis at all. It's spinning like this without spinning like that a bit. There's a slow motion video on YouTube. If you look up tippy top slow motion, you can see it, and you can just watch it. You can see it, watch it going around. You'll find that point where it does that. But I think it makes the top even more interesting to think about that. Okay, so are you interested in tops? Are these tops now? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make them now. So let me just, I'll pass a couple of these around. Peter, you want to catch this one? And Joel? And let's see, I can pass more around if you want, but I think two's enough to make it around. All right, so the first step in making a tippy top for me is, let's see, let's go to this front camera, number one. Okay, so the first step is to make the body. There's two parts. There's the body and the stem. I make them separately and then stick them together. Okay, so I'm going to make the body first. So I'm going to start with a blank. So I start with blanks that are 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And I usually start with longer than this. I usually start with about 5 inches. But when you make that, and I make just several as I go. So I make one, then another, and another, another. I make 4 in each one. But I didn't want to do that tonight because that first one, you have to go a little bit slower because it vibrates more, so you have to be a little more careful. So I made it a little shorter, but make it as long as you want. So I'm going to mark the center on both sides. I think I already marked the other one, but I grabbed the wrong one. And then I use a punch and punch this out. I might as well switch to the top, which is number 2. Okay, then I'm going to put it on centers. And the first thing I want to do is put a tenon on it. So I'll put it on centers and put the tenon on, then put it on a chuck. And really, you don't have to get exact centered here because it's going to be round when I'm done. So if it's off a little bit, it doesn't really matter. And get this out of the way. Okay, so what I want to do is just kind of get it round, get it close to round. I know what I forgot. I forgot a face mask. John, can I borrow your face mask? Okay, so it is important to use protection. Something small like this, it's maybe not quite as dangerous as something large, but still a piece can come off and hit you in the eye or something. So it's always good to have face mask on. Can you hear me now okay? Okay. All right, that's all I'm going to do. It's not quite round yet, but that's all right. It doesn't have to be. So I'm going to just use this tool. You can see that it's a little bit of an angle there. So if I just do a cut like this, like as if it were a parting tool. It gives me a tenon. And let's hope that I made it the right size. Hope I didn't make it too small. So I'm going to use this small chuck. That's going to fit. Yeah, I think that's going to work. If I don't drop the tool, I think it's barely going to work. Okay, that's good. They always say to make it close to being closed. And I think I did a good job of that. So now I'll take out the point here. So now the whole thing is pointless in a second. Bent or something there. Okay. And I really don't need this now because it's not very much from here to here. So I can get rid of this. And then I won't cut myself on it. So I make it round. I think that's round now. Okay, so that's the first step. So that's what we have now. I'm going to pass that around, Peter. So the next thing I want to do is I want to start the like this. Start the shape of the top. I'm not going to quite do this much, but that's the next step. And I'll throw that around, I'll pass that around too. So I'm going to use a spindle gouge for that. And I'm going to start back here. Now, this is about 1.5 inches when I started. It's probably about 1 3/8 inches now, maybe 1.25 inches, somewhere in there. So I'm going to start back about probably about 3/8 of an inch, just roughly. I don't care exactly how much. And just start making a bead. That's about all I want to do. I'm not going to do the rest as that thing I passed around. I used to do that, but now I don't. What I do next is hollow it. And to hollow it, I'll show you how I do it. And here's the next step. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spindle gouge, turn the flute at about 45 degrees, so it's coming up kind of toward me at 45 degrees. And I want to get it pretty close to center. I'm a little bit low there, so I'll move it up just a tad. And now I'm going to start hollowing. The way I went a little bit too much. So the way I'm going to do it is just push it in like it was a drill bit, and then pull it toward me. And what I want to do is get a nice curve in there. And I want it to be about 1/2 inch deep. Doesn't have to be exactly that, but just about 1/2 inch. I don't measure these things because it's not really that important, but you want it to be somewhere in that vicinity, about 1/2 inch. I'll go just a tad bit more. If you don't make it deep enough, it's not going to work. It's critical that it's hollow like that. And I'll explain why in a little bit while I'm sanding, because that'll give me something to do while I'm sanding. So now I have it hollow. So the next step is this one. And that is I'm going to drill a hole in it. Now the hole I'm going to drill is going to be just under 1/4 inch. So I'm using a D. It's called a D bit. If you look online or something, look for 1/4 inch D bits, and they're slightly less than 1/4 inch. I don't know what they are exactly, what their measurement is exactly, but I want to make it a little smaller than 1/4 inch. If I do that, then when I put the stem in, I don't have to glue it. It's a good tight fit. I just don't have to worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to drill it. And I guess I should wear this. So to drill it, I want to make it, what, around 500 RPMs or so, maybe. Doesn't matter exactly. And let's see, I'm going to loosen this a little bit, put it up here, let it find the center, and tighten it. And what I want to do is make a 1/4 inch hole. So I'm making a 1/4 inch long. This has 16 turns per inch. So that means you turn it 4 times around. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit more. I always go a little more. Okay. Now, if you don't go deep enough, then when you put the stem in, it won't be as good a fit. And you can imagine what'll happen if you go too deep. You go right, you'll get a hole at the bottom. I've done that before, and the top still works. It just doesn't look as good. Gary. No, I've done that a lot. Anytime there's a little variation and it's not real tight, then I'll glue it. Gluing's fine, but you get better. It's probably better if it's just a tight fit. And we'll see, because every lathe is off a little bit. It's never perfect. So on my old lathe, I used to do always a 1/4 inch instead of using the D bit, and it worked fine. It worked just perfect. And then I made some stuff. I made some, I think those pencils where I had to drill some stuff with pretty good sized bits. And after I did that, it never quite was right after that. So it's off just a tiny bit. So now I use a little bit smaller drill bit. Okay, so time to sand it. Where did I put the sandpaper? Here it is. Okay, so why do I have to hollow it? I'm going to talk about that while I'm sanding. So I'm just going to sand in here. Go to the camera 3. Camera 3. Well, that didn't work so well. I can lift it a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to sand it, this area right in here, because this is my last chance to really get in there and do anything. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just turn it fairly slow. Start with 120 and then go up to 400. So the reason we have to do this is because in order for a tippy top to work, the main thing is you have to have a low center of gravity. So by taking some mass out of the top, yeah, that's right. By taking some mass out of the top, you're lowering the center of gravity. And the reason you have to have a low center of gravity is that anything, if you take any object at all, throw it in the air, let it spin, it's going to spin about an axis that goes through the center of gravity. So what happens is if you have a low center of gravity, I'll explain this with the top here. Take off this, yeah, I'd be happy to. So here's the surface, here's the top. It's spinning about the center of gravity. The center of gravity is not in line with where the top touches the table. So when it's spinning around, it's actually dragging that top around and you get friction. That friction is really what causes the torque that lifts it. So you've got to have that friction. You can, if you know a little bit of physics, you can easily prove that friction is what makes this work. It wouldn't work without friction. So that's why you have to have a low center of gravity, so that when it spins, you get that friction from it dragging it around rather than just spinning on a point. Okay, so let me finish sanding. It's good enough. Okay, so now I want to decorate it. One of the reasons I make this in 2 pieces is that way I can decorate the inside. If I made it with a whole piece, I'd have the stem sticking out here and I'd be working close in there to hollow it out, and I wouldn't be able to get a tool in there to texture it and to paint it. So I'm going to use an elf tool. Have you ever seen an elf tool? You can get these at a couple of places at least. One is what's the one in Utah? Craft Supply, yeah, in Utah. They have these. This one I made. They're not too hard to make. All it is just a what is it? A cutter, and I made it so it rotates freely. I just put a couple of bearings in, so it was easy to do. Okay, so what I want to do is do this fast, and all I do is I push against the side. Okay. And if the lighting is just right, you can see where the edges are, because I want to know where the edges are, because I want to put a couple little grooves, one on each side of the texturing. Can you zoom that a little bit? That would be the green one there. Well, just use the green thing there. Well, it should work. Maybe it doesn't work. All right, don't zoom it. What, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mark here with the pencil, and because when it's spinning, I can't tell exactly where the edge is. Sometimes you can see where the edge is, but what happens is if you can't quite see it, you think you see it is, you'll get it off a little bit and it's not going to look right. So I know that's where I want to put a groove. So I'm just going to use a point tool. I have this little short point tool, and I'm going to just use that to put a little groove on both of those marks. And I'm going to be kind of in the way. I wonder if I could just, so maybe you can see it on the screen if I do it like this. Maybe I can't do it because it's backwards. I'm going to do it this way. I don't care if you can see or not. Okay. So I'm just going to put a little groove there. Put a little groove there. And I missed it a little bit, but it's okay because I'm going to paint it. So you have to decide what color. Any preference on colors? I've got a number of colors here. Red, blue, green, orange. What do you want? Purple? Blue. Okay, we're going to do two colors, so blue will be one. We'll use this blue, or we can use this blue. Red and blue. Okay, good idea. So we have white anyway, so red, white, and blue. Okay, I also am going to use a black to put in the grooves. So let's see if I can. I guess I only want one color now. Let's do the blue first. So I'm just going to just touch it lightly and then go across. And then I'll use a black to fill in the grooves. Was there a question? I can't hear you. Speed. Oh, about like that. It's 1500, but I often go like, a lot of times I go full blast. I mean, whatever speed you want. I don't think it matters too much. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see the texture in there? Maybe if I move this, it would help too. Okay, so that's I think it came out pretty well. It's a nice tool. It's very simple to use. Now what I'm going to do is put some wax on the top of it. So the wax is carnauba wax, and you can buy these in bars. And bars, meaning bar of, you don't go to the bar and buy carnauba wax. Okay, so anyway, you have to be a little careful because I just painted that, and you can smear the paint if you're not careful. So what you do is you start on the raw wood, and then you go toward the paint. And I'm going to go halfway across that painted area, and then make sure I get all the paint off if there's any on the edge. And then I go from the other side, do the same thing. And then once you get it everywhere, you don't have to worry about it. You can just kind of rub it on. What kind of markers? These are Tombow. You can get these at Dick Blick. You can get them at Michael's, other places too. But Tombow. And these are great pens. They're water soluble. Water soluble isn't perfect maybe because sometimes kids will, have these out at the market. Sometimes kids will come up with the drink. Their hands are all wet. They play with them a while, and then the paint moves a little bit. So that's a little annoying, but they're nice pens. Okay, so I put the wax on, so now I'll use a paper towel, and I'll just kind of polish it a little bit. You can put 2 coats or more on, but I'm only going to put one on because nobody's going to be able to reach in there because there's not much space. So I don't think it'll wear off very fast. Okay, so the next step then, and I guess I already showed you the next step. Next step is I'm going to make this outside body approximately how I want it. And so this is what it'll look like when I'm done, except it won't be decorated. And I probably should put the mask back on. Okay, so one important skill when you're making these is to be able to make a bead. So I started a bead here. I'm going to make the rest of the bead over here on this side. Now, you might think what you want to make is a sphere, but I don't want to make a sphere. I want to make it flatter than a sphere. So it'll look like a sphere for a little bit up in this area. Then when I get down here, I want it to be flatter than a sphere. So can you kind of see that shape? Now, if you make it too flat there, it may you may go through and hit the hole. So you don't want to make it too flat, but you don't want it to be a sphere. A little bit shorter than a sphere is what you want. Okay, so that's good enough. I'll part it off now. Notice I didn't try to get this perfect. I just tried to get it somewhere near because I'm going to remount it in a minute and finish up the outside. Okay, so there it is. You can see that that bottom needs some work. Okay, so I'm done with this now. And notice that this is nice because now I'm ready to do the next one. I could just go ahead and start the next one. I've already got the curve on here. And that's why I like to have it a little bit long so I can do several at a time. Okay, so I want to remount this, and I'm going to show you two different ways of doing this. What I've done for years is use a collet and a 1/4 inch steel dowel. And so I could do that. I guess I should round this in a little bit. I meant to bring I have something that fits over the top that I can pound it in. I forgot to bring that, so I'll just do that. Yeah, that's a good fit there. Okay, I think I'll do it that way. Now, the other way, I don't usually do this now, but this one fits well, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Here's what I made to do this. The one problem with doing it this way is it only is supported in that hole. That's all. So what I did was I made this where the wood supports it, and then the edge comes up against here. Let's see if it works on this one. That's a good fit. So I put it on. And see, it doesn't quite. I don't know if you can see there's a gap there. Yeah, you can see a shadow, but there's a gap between here. And that's not what I want. What I want is this to go right up against. So what I would do at home is I just take a little bit off here, and that way it would go on a little bit further. And if it's up against here, it's even a better fit because it won't try to wiggle a little bit. It's on there solid. But you can do it either way. And this I just threaded, to fit the lathe. If you want to do this, but you don't want to thread it, you could just put it on a chuck and make a jam chuck basically from a piece of wood. Okay, but I'm just going to use it this way. That's fine, I think. Okay, so I want to finish the outside now. Put this on. Yeah, it's running very true. That's very good. So here I can smooth it a little bit. I like to go pretty fast in small things like this. So that's the shape I want. That looks pretty good. Okay, so it's just a bead. You can probably, go above. Do the above camera. There we go. You can see that it's not a perfect sphere here because it's flat on this side. It kind of comes down. It's not completely flat, but it's flatter than a sphere. Okay, so I'm going to sand it now. And while I'm sanding, I'll tell you a few things to watch for when you're making these. One is that you want to sand it well. You don't want any flat spots. If you have a flat spot on there, it'll start flipping over, but it gets to the flat stop and it just spins around there. It won't go any further. So Make sure you don't have any flats. Oh, yeah. I may just leave it off because I'm making such small things. I'm not really too worried about it. AAW wouldn't like that, but I'm going to do that. They may kick me out and I won't give them dues anymore. Okay, let's see. This goes here. So I'm going to, okay, that's one thing to watch for. So you want to make sure that it's a little bit flatter than the sphere, that there's no flats. Another thing that I want to watch for is I don't want too much texture on it because friction's important for it. If there's a lot of texture, it hits a bump, bumps up, it's in the air, there's no friction. So if it's bouncing around, it's just not going to work as well as if it's against the surface while it's spinning the whole time. I go to, well, let's see, what am I doing today? I'm going to 600. I usually go to 600. But 400's fine, I think. Okay, so now I'm going to use the ELF tool again. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to come over here. And this is where I really like the way it works. I'm going to start on this surface here, on this face over at this side. Let's see. That's not. That'll work. Okay, I like to go pretty fast. I'm going to go about 3,000. Okay, and then I'm going to go clear at the back. And I like to put, yes, I can't do that. Okay, what I like to do is put my finger here and put just a little bit of pressure on so that it doesn't want to come off. Because I'm pushing that way, so I have some force going against it. And then I want to put another texture ring right in the center between the two. And I rarely get the exact center, but it really doesn't matter. I just want to put something there. And again, what I'm going to do is use the pencil and mark where the edges are. So on this one, can you go to 3? Yeah, on this one, I'm going to put one right here. One right here. Okay, now let's go to the top. So I'll put one here, one here, one here, and one here. That's pretty close to where I want them. So I'll use the point tool just right here. Kind of made a little mistake there. I put the point tool a little bit off, so it may look kind of funny. But this is just a demo, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay, so now we have a blue ring inside, so I'm going to make it red, and then blue right at the center. So let's start with the red. Oh, and there's also, I forgot. I don't want it to be too rough here. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of the finest sandpaper, the 600 in my case, and just run over it just real softly. And that just takes some of the high points down so that's less likely to bounce around when it's spinning. And then I didn't do this last time and I should have, but I have this sawed off brush. It comes with the ELF tool if you get it from Craft Supply. Get all the chips out. And then I'll use the red. So I'm going to put red here. And I'm going about 3,000 RPMs this time. I'll put red here. And then I'll get the blue. And I'll put blue here. And then I'd like to put a dot at the center of blue, or whatever the color I'm using is. And I use black and mark the edges. Okay, and now carnauba wax, using the same idea as before. I'll start on the raw wood, go to the paint, make sure there's no color. Raw wood to paint, raw wood to paint, raw wood to paint. And just keep going until I get to the end here. And then I can go over everywhere. And I'll use the paper towel to polish it. I'm going to put 2 layers on because this will get some wear and tear. I want to make sure I get a good amount of wax on here. Oh, by the way, I use hard maple for this. I use hard maple. I don't use soft maple because, it gets beat up a lot. You spin it and it falls on the floor, or it falls against an edge of something. If you use hard maple, it doesn't seem to hurt it. A softer wood, it could dent or something in it. You can use any wood you want, really. And if you're using a darker wood, you wouldn't paint it. If you're using 2 different woods, that you say glue together, I would glue the dense one on the bottom and the less dense one on top. That way the center of gravity would be low because the heavy stuff would be on the bottom. Okay, so there's the body. Let me get a measurement for it, then I'll pass it around. So the last thing to do then is make the, I have a, here's a body. So the last step is to make the stem. Okay, I'm going to pass this one around over there. So Joel, you want to try to catch that? And I'm going to ask for that back. Oh, wait, I do need it. Here you go. I do need that. I forgot I need to measure what the stem length is. So what I do, where'd I put my calipers? I forgot to bring calipers. Okay, here's how I'll do it. I'm going to, what I want to do is make it so you want to just do the forward, the number one camera, and zoom it out a little bit. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to make the stem come above the rim here about a ½ inch, roughly ½ inch. It could be off a little bit, but ½ inch is what I want. So I'm going to just kind of put that there. ½ inch is about there. So that's how long I want it, okay? So what I'm going to do is, of course, I use the pencils. I want to mark it with a pencil. So I'm just going to put a mark on here so I know. Okay, so this distance that I marked would be from the bottom of the stem to the top of the stem, from the bottom that you can see, not including the tenon that goes on the end, okay? So that's my mark. I'll use that one for the tenon. So I'll need to put another chuck in so I can put a small piece of wood in for the stem. All right. So use this one. This has the small jaws, probably go to 3 maybe at this point. Camera 3. So just gonna put that in there. Good. And I'll just use a spindle gouge. Okay. I didn't pass it around. I'll pass this around. And then when I need it back, you'll have to give it back. All right, so what I'm going to do is just first make it round. So I'm going to use the edge of the tool and just do that. Run it across. A little bit more. I'm going to cut the end off so it's, oops, I messed up there, but that's okay. I want it to be just domed a little bit. We can see if I can do a little better in that. If you make it, okay, so when I first started making these, I tried to make this a sharp point, and if I did that, it would flip up and then it'd fall over. So don't try to put a sharp point here. Instead, just make it domed. If you have a nice dome, it works fine. So I've got a dome there. So I'm going to use my mark here to see where I want to cut it, or where I want to put the tenon, I should say. So right there is where it stops, and on the left of that, or on this side of it, is where the tenon goes. So, oh, just left it here. I want to expand this a little bit. And now I want to make a 1/4-inch tenon, and I want to do it fast. So I'm going to use a 1/4-inch wrench. So the first thing I have to do, and it's sharpened. If you, let's see, where are we here? You're looking this way. So top might be better. Yeah. I don't know. Can you zoom that a little bit? Okay. So you can see I've got it sharpened on this edge, and you can see I've sharpened quite a bit because this edge you started out quite a bit longer than that, but it's okay. I just need a 1/4 inch. All right, so I'm going to use a parting tool and get it close to a 1/4 inch. And then once I get it close, I'll use the wrench to finish it off. All right, well, that's good enough. Usually I can get it pretty straight across with that, but that didn't work well. Okay, so now I'll use the wrench. That should be a good fit now. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and finish this. You can make this whatever shape you want. It doesn't really matter. You don't want to put too much weight in there because you want a low center of gravity. So what I like to do is cut it in like this somehow. Make a nice curve on it. Cut this down. And I like to have the spin part to be about 1/4 inch, maybe tad over 5/16. And the reason is because if it's too thick, it's hard to get a good fast spin on it. But if it's thinner, it's easier to get this fast spin. So let's see here. That's pretty good. I'm not worried about this point here because I'll sand that off. And that's ready to sand. This has taken me a little longer than I was anticipating, but we're almost done. So I used 120 grit here on the end. That's in grain, so it's a little harder to sand, so I use 120. Everywhere else, I start at 180. This is 180. And just go through the grit. Are there any questions while I'm doing this? Yeah, I have. They're easier to make. They're more likely to flip for smaller ones. You make a bigger one, it's harder to make it flip. I made one that was about this big around, and the only way I could get it, I couldn't do it by hand, but I took a like a Dremel type tool, and I drilled a hole in it, and I put a little rod in the Dremel tool, and I get going really fast, pull it up, and it did great. It'd spin around and flip over. And it was good for, and I should have probably brought one because it's kind of good for talking about how they work, demonstrating. But it's not a practical one from the point of view, just, spinning them. Okay, so got that done. And now you can color it however you want also. I'm going to stick with the red, white, and blue. So if you remember, it was blue inside. That was the color I used first. So I'm going to start with red and put that inside. So I'll just put a little stripe. I'm not going to texture it. I'm just going to put a little stripe of red. I'm going to put red on the end, just a little dot there. Let's do 3 real quick. Yeah, since I've got a little dot there. I'll go back above. And then I'll put the blue stripes here. And then I'll use black to highlight them. Now, that's just how I do it. You can decorate them any way you want. It doesn't really matter because that doesn't really affect how it's going to spin. It's just how you like it to look is all. Okay. And then I'll use the carnauba wax. Bit of black right there. Okay, there it goes. And then I'll get this end. And I think I've got it everywhere now. So here I want to get good wax on it because this is where people are going to be spinning it. And so if you don't put a good layer of wax on, it could wear out, could wear off pretty quickly. So I'll use the paper towel. Notice I just held it against, and look, see, you can see the paint, some of the paint came off. And that's fine. That's just what it does. But the second time around, you shouldn't get as much off. Say that again. It does. Marginally, I've never really seen a big difference, but it could. So so the question is, does it help if you texture right here along this edge here where my fingernail's pointing? And that's because when this touches the tabletop, it's rougher, and so it may lift it faster. That's what I've read, but I don't know that that's true. Probably is. But I never do it. I have done it in the past some. I kind of prefer it not on there, though. I like it smooth like this. Okay, so we've almost finished it. So I'm going to need that tippy top back again. Oh, here's the. Okay, thank you. All right, I'll cut it off. I need to cut it off about 1/4 of an inch, and I never measure. It's no fun to measure. It's fun to turn, but not to measure. And what I found was it really doesn't matter too much as long as it's close to 1/4 of an inch, because if it's too short, it just doesn't go all the way down. And if it's too long, it makes it so that the top stops where my fingernail is and there's a little gap. But what's the difference? You're looking down like this, you can't see the gap. So you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, there's a little end here I'm going to sand off. That's good. Now it's the moment of truth. So I want to make sure we got it on all the way. Yeah, okay. So let's do camera 3. Okay, I'm gonna have to lower this a bit. See if it works. It'll be embarrassing if it doesn't. Good, it worked. Thank you. Okay, any questions? Okay, so these are fun to make. You can see it doesn't take long. If you're not talking to somebody and have a crowd in front of you, you can do it even faster. So, I usually take about 20 minutes to make one on average. Yeah, Gary. You could, but I'm going to quote one of our members, Joel, here, when he was asked that same question about a top he was making. Does anybody remember what he said? We're wood turners, that we like to turn wood.